There's a moment when you're faced with disrespect, when someone is trying to undermine you, trying to get a reaction out of you. And in that moment, it's tempting to snap back, to let them know you're not one to be messed with. But here's the thing, silence is far more powerful than any words you could ever speak in that moment. Silence, often mistaken for passivity or weakness, is actually a powerful tool that can speak louder than words. When used consciously, silence can disarm, shift dynamics, and reshape relationships. In a world where everyone feels compelled to have the last word or prove their point, choosing silence is an act of strength. It's not about surrendering or backing down. It's about having the confidence to know that you don't need to engage with every challenge or disrespect that comes your way. Let's think about it. Disrespect, in most cases, is a test. It's designed to provoke a reaction. When someone disrespects you, they're often expecting an emotional outburst. They want to rattle you, to disrupt your peace, to throw you off balance. They may want to assert dominance, prove their superiority, or simply diminish your value in some way. And that's where the power of silence comes into play. When you stay silent in the face of disrespect, you're sending a clear message. It says that you are not controlled by the whims of others, that their words or actions don't define who you are or how you respond. Silence shows that you are in control of your emotions, and you're not going to hand over your peace of mind to someone who is trying to disrupt it. That kind of self-control is a quiet strength that speaks volumes, and it often has a much bigger impact than any verbal retaliation. When you think about how we're wired as humans, we crave acknowledgement. It's in our nature to seek validation, even in conflict. We want to know that we've been heard, that our words have had an effect. Disrespect feeds off of that desire for attention. When someone disrespects you and you stay calm and silent, you are essentially cutting off the oxygen to their fire. They expected a confrontation, and instead they are left standing in the smoke of their own words. That silence forces them to sit with their own actions. It holds up a mirror to their behavior, and for many, that's uncomfortable. It's unsettling because they are left to question themselves, why didn't this person respond? Did I not matter enough to provoke them? Or worse, did my words reveal more about me than about them? In choosing silence, you shifted the power dynamic. What once seemed like an attack becomes something else entirely. Your silence transforms it into a reflection of the other person's character, not your own. This disarms them. It takes away their power to control the narrative or twist the situation in their favor. Instead of being drawn into their game, you remain above it, operating on a different level, one they may not even understand. The beauty of silence lies in its subtlety. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about choosing when and how to engage in a way that serves your best interests. Silence can be a tactical pause, a moment of reflection, a way to gather your thoughts before responding if you choose to respond at all. It can be a way of preserving your energy, of protecting your inner peace. In fact, silence often says far more than any words you could muster in the heat of the moment. It's a way of telling the other person without saying a word that their disrespect doesn't even warrant your attention. And that is powerful. Consider how this applies in real-life situations. Let's say you're at work and a colleague makes a snide comment or undermines you in a meeting. The natural instinct might be to fire back, to defend yourself in front of others. But what if instead you chose silence? You maintain your composure, letting the comment hang in the air without reaction. Suddenly that colleague is left standing there exposed while you maintain your dignity. They may feel the sting of their own words more sharply than if you had reacted. Your silence speaks for you, and it says, I don't need to engage with this. I know my worth. In personal relationships, silence can be even more effective. Sometimes the best way to deal with someone's disrespect or negativity is to not deal with it at all. When you choose silence, you communicate that you won't be drawn into their negativity. You refuse to let them drag you into an emotional back and forth that leaves you drained. Instead, you set a boundary without ever saying a word. You signal that you are in control, not of them, but of yourself. And that's where true power lies, not in dominating others, but in mastering yourself. Silence is a deliberate choice, a tool that requires self-awareness and confidence to wield effectively. It's not about retreating, it's about rising above. It shows that you understand your value, that you won't let others dictate your response, and that you have the strength to remain calm, even in the face of disrespect. And in that calm, you find your greatest power. When faced with disrespect, the immediate impulse for many is to react, whether it's defending yourself, retaliating, or even trying to set the record straight. However, reacting impulsively hands over your power to the very person who disrespected you. When you respond in the heat of the moment, you allow someone else's words or actions to dictate how you feel and behave. In contrast, choosing silence, choosing not to react, demonstrates that you place greater value on your own self-respect than on the temporary satisfaction of a reactive response. Reacting impulsively to disrespect often plays into the hands of the one who disrespected you. It gives them what they want, a reaction. They were trying to provoke you, trying to get under your skin. And if you lash out or even respond defensively, you've shown them that they succeeded. Your reaction becomes proof that their words or actions affected you, which only reinforces their power in the situation. When you engage with someone's negativity, you're not only validating their behavior, but you're also allowing them to dictate the emotional tone of the interaction. But when you choose silence instead, you take control. You make it clear that your sense of self is not dependent on how others treat you or on what they think of you. It shows that your self-worth is rooted within, not in the opinions or actions of those around you. This isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending that the disrespect didn't happen. It's about understanding that you don't need to stoop to their level to protect your dignity. By staying silent, you are asserting that your value is far beyond the reach of their negative words or actions. In many ways, silence can be more powerful than any verbal comeback. A quick, reactive response often comes from a place of emotional vulnerability. In that moment, you might say something that you later regret, or you might end up giving more attention to someone who doesn't deserve it. But when you stay silent, you are choosing to rise above the fray. You're communicating without words that the disrespect doesn't even warrant your energy. It shows immense inner strength and self-control, both of which are markers of true self-respect. Silence also leaves room for reflection. When you react quickly, you're usually not thinking clearly. You're caught up in the emotion of the moment, and your response is driven by that intensity. But when you choose not to react right away, you give yourself the space to assess the situation more thoughtfully. You can take a step back and ask yourself, is this even worth my time? Does this person's opinion matter to me? Is engaging in this conflict going to bring anything positive into my life? More often than not, you'll find that the answer to those questions is no. And in that realization, you find your power. People who seek to disrespect or provoke others are often looking for attention. They thrive on the conflict, on the back and forth, and on the emotional energy that comes with it. They want to feel like they've gotten a rise out of you, like they've won something. When you choose silence, you deny them that victory. You rob them of the satisfaction of seeing you flustered or upset. And in doing so, you maintain your own peace of mind. You show that your self-respect is more valuable than giving in to the pettiness of the moment. It's important to remember that silence doesn't mean weakness or passivity. On the contrary, it's a conscious decision that takes great strength. It's easy to snap back or fire off a quick retort, but it takes real courage to hold back and remain composed. Silence is an active choice, a choice to protect your peace, your dignity, and your energy. It's about understanding that not every battle is worth fighting, and that sometimes the best way to respond to negativity is not to respond at all. Choosing silence also allows the disrespect to speak for itself. When you don't react, the other person is left with nothing but their own words or actions to reflect on. Without your engagement, the disrespect lingers in the air, unchallenged by you, and often becomes more noticeable. They are left to deal with the weight of what they've said or done. This can be far more powerful than any retort or comeback you could offer because it forces them to confront their behavior without the distraction of your reaction. In some cases, your silence may even lead the person to reconsider their actions. Without the conflict they were expecting, they may begin to reflect on the situation and realize that their disrespect was unwarranted or unnecessary. By choosing not to engage, you give them the space to recognize their own misstep. And if they don't come to that realization, that's fine too, because your silence wasn't for them in the first place. It was for you. It was a way of asserting your self-respect and maintaining your peace. When you choose silence over reaction, you're not just protecting yourself from the negative energy of the moment, you're affirming that your self-worth isn't up for debate. You are choosing to honor yourself, your boundaries, and your peace of mind. And that's a decision that reflects true strength and self-respect. In a world where everyone is quick to react, your silence becomes a statement of confidence and power, one that can't be shaken by the disrespect of others. When you choose silence in response to disrespect, you're not just protecting your peace, you're also exposing the insecurities of the person who tried to hurt you. People who disrespect others often do so because of their own internal struggles. They may feel insecure, inferior, or inadequate in some way, and they try to mask those feelings by bringing others down. Their disrespect is a reflection of their inner turmoil, not a measure of your worth. And when you refuse to respond to their provocation, you force them to confront the very insecurities they're trying to hide. Disrespect is, more often than not, a tool used by those who feel powerless. It's a defense mechanism, a way to exert control or dominance in situations where they feel vulnerable. They disrespect others to elevate themselves, to momentarily forget about their own shortcomings by making someone else the target. But when you don't engage, when you stay silent in the face of their negativity, you rob them of the chance to feel powerful. You strip away the false sense of superiority they were trying to create. Silence, in this case, becomes a mirror one that reflects back the insecurity, the fear, and the inadequacy that drove the disrespect in the first place. Without your reaction to distract them, they're left to sit with their own discomfort. They are confronted by the reality that their attempt to diminish you has failed, and that they haven't succeeded in dragging you down to their level. In fact, your silence makes it clear that you're operating on a completely different plane, one where their words and actions hold no power over you. What makes this even more powerful is that people who are insecure often thrive on attention. They need external validation to feel good about themselves. When they disrespect you, they're seeking that validation. They want to know that they can get under your skin, that they can manipulate your emotions. Your silence denies them that validation. It forces them to realize that their disrespect didn't affect you in the way they hoped. They're left questioning themselves, wondering why their words didn't have the impact they expected. In this way, your silence exposes the fragility of their ego. When they don't get the reaction they were seeking, it highlights the fact that their disrespect was more about them than it was about you. It becomes clear that their actions stem from their own insecurities, not from any real judgment or criticism of you. And that can be a difficult pill for them to swallow. They are forced to confront the fact that they were projecting their own issues onto you, and now that you haven't engaged, they have no one to blame but themselves. Choosing silence is a way of reclaiming your power in these situations. You're not giving in to their attempts to control the narrative. Instead, you're creating space for their insecurity to be revealed, for their disrespect to unravel on its own. It becomes clear that they were trying to compensate for something lacking within themselves, and your refusal to engage only makes that more obvious. It's important to remember that when someone disrespects you, it's rarely about you personally. More often than not, it's about how they feel about themselves. They may be struggling with feelings of inadequacy, and disrespecting others gives them a temporary sense of relief. It's a way of deflecting attention from their own shortcomings. But when you stay silent, when you refuse to react, you shine a light on their underlying issues. You make it impossible for them to hide behind their disrespect, because now they're the only ones left standing in the spotlight. This can be incredibly unsettling for them. They may have been expecting a back and forth, a verbal battle that would distract them from their own insecurities, but instead they're left with nothing but their own discomfort. Your silence forces them to sit with the reality of their behavior and its origins. And for someone who was already feeling insecure, that can be an uncomfortable place to be. Over time, this can lead to a shift in the way people treat you. When they realize that disrespect won't get the reaction they're looking for, they're less likely to engage in that behavior with you. They'll come to understand that you're not someone who can be easily manipulated or provoked. Your silence sends a clear message you are in control of yourself, and their insecurities are not your problem to solve. This isn't to say that you should stay silent in every situation. There are times when it's important to stand up for yourself and assert your boundaries, but there's immense power in knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet. Silence can be just as effective, if not more so, than words in certain situations, especially when dealing with someone who is trying to project their insecurities onto you. By staying silent, you are holding up a mirror to the person who disrespected you, forcing them to confront the reality of their own behavior. You're showing them that their words don't have the power they thought they did. And in doing so, you're exposing the very insecurities that drove their actions in the first place. It's a powerful, unspoken way of saying, I'm not going to engage with your negativity, and your insecurities are not my burden to carry. Your silence reveals the truth about the situation, that their disrespect was never about you. It was a reflection of their own struggles, their own fears, and their own insecurities. And by choosing not to engage, you maintain your power, your peace, and your dignity while they are left to deal with the consequences of their actions. Disrespect thrives on attention. It's a fuel, and the more you feed it, the stronger it grows. When someone disrespects you, their primary goal is often to provoke a reaction. They want to know that their words or actions have affected you. They want to see you lose your composure, to feel the satisfaction of knowing they got under your skin. Disrespect isn't just about demeaning someone, it's about control. It's an attempt to manipulate your emotions, to drag you into a space where they hold the upper hand. And when you react, you play directly into their hands, you give them the power they were seeking. But what happens when you choose not to engage? What happens when you refuse to give their disrespect the attention it craves? In that moment, you disrupt the entire dynamic. Your silence becomes a powerful statement, one that says, you don't control me. Your words have no power here. And that, for someone who thrives on attention and conflict, is far more unsettling than any argument or rebuttal you could offer. By choosing silence, you deprive disrespect of the very thing it needs to survive your engagement. People who disrespect others are often driven by a desire for recognition, even if it's negative. It's about asserting dominance, about making their presence felt. For some, it's a way of masking their own insecurities. They believe that by tearing others down, they can elevate themselves, if only for a moment. But this kind of behavior requires an audience. It needs a response to justify its existence. Without a reaction, the entire purpose of their disrespect is undermined. It becomes a hollow gesture, a shout into the void. When you don't respond to disrespect, it forces the other person to confront the emptiness of their actions. They may have expected a heated exchange, a confrontation that would feed their ego or give them a sense of victory. But instead, they're left with nothing. Your silence makes them question their own behavior. They begin to wonder why you didn't react, why their words didn't provoke the response they anticipated. And in that moment of uncertainty, the power shifts. Suddenly, they're the ones who are off balance, not you. This shift is crucial because it reveals something important. Disrespect is a game. It's a game where the goal is to get a rise out of you, to pull you into a conflict where they set the terms. And when you refuse to play, you take away their control. The rules no longer apply because you're not participating. Your silence disrupts the flow of the game, leaving them confused and often frustrated. They may try harder to provoke you, but with each failed attempt, their efforts become more desperate, more transparent. There's something deeply disarming about silence. It's a response that people are not always prepared for, especially when they've invested energy into provoking you. They expect words, anger, or defensiveness. But when you remain calm, when you refuse to give them the attention they seek, it forces them to reckon with the futility of their actions. Your silence is a wall they can't penetrate. And for someone who thrives on conflict, that's unsettling. At its core, disrespect is about control. It's an attempt to assert dominance, to make you feel small. But when you don't react, when you maintain your composure and stay silent, you take back that control. You show that you are not swayed by the opinions or actions of others, that your sense of self is not dictated by someone else's negativity. This is where the real power lies, not in engaging with disrespect, but in rising above it. People who engage in disrespectful behavior often do so because they want to provoke a reaction that justifies their own negativity. If they can make you angry or upset, it validates their worldview. It allows them to believe that their actions were justified, that you deserve the disrespect they dished out. But when you refuse to respond, when you deny them the satisfaction of seeing you react, you rob them of that justification. You leave them with their own behavior, forcing them to confront the reality of their actions without the distraction of your response. This is why silence can be so powerful. It's not just a lack of response, it's a deliberate choice to withhold attention from behavior that doesn't deserve it. It's a way of asserting your own boundaries, of showing that you won't be pulled into someone else's negativity. And over time, this approach can change the dynamic of your relationships. When people realize that disrespect won't get the attention they crave, they may stop engaging in it altogether. They'll come to understand that you're not someone who can be easily manipulated or provoked. Choosing not to respond to disrespect also protects your own peace of mind. Every time you engage with negativity, you expend emotional energy. You give a part of yourself to the conflict, and that energy could be better spent elsewhere. By staying silent, you keep that energy for yourself. You maintain your emotional equilibrium, refusing to let someone else dictate how you feel or how you act. And that's a form of self-care. It's a way of protecting your inner peace, of ensuring that your well-being isn't compromised by the actions of others. At the end of the day, disrespect can only have as much power as you give it. When you choose not to react, when you deny it the attention it seeks, you take away that power. You show that your sense of self-worth is not tied to someone else's words or actions. And in doing so, you not only maintain your dignity, but you also force the other person to confront the emptiness of their disrespect. They are left with nothing but their own behavior to reflect on, while you walk away with your peace intact. Silence in this way is not just the absence of words, it's the presence of strength. It's a conscious decision to prioritize your own well-being over the fleeting satisfaction of a reaction. It's a reminder that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every disrespectful comment deserves your attention. By choosing silence, you not only preserve your energy, but you also show that true power lies in the ability to rise above the noise. When you respond to disrespect with silence, it doesn't mean that you are weak or passive. In fact, silence can be the ultimate form of strength. It's a quiet form of resistance, a way to demonstrate that. You have control over your emotions and reactions. It signals to the person who disrespected you and to the world that you are not easily shaken. Your silence speaks volumes about your ability to maintain composure and dignity, no matter how someone else tries to provoke you. In situations of disrespect, the ability to remain calm and refrain from responding impulsively is a reflection of inner fortitude and self-confidence. People often mistake silence for weakness. They assume that if you don't respond, it means you're unable to defend yourself or that you don't have the courage to stand up for yourself. But the truth is that silence requires immense self-control. It's easy to react, to lash out in anger or frustration, but it takes real strength to stay calm and composed. Silence is not an absence of power. It's the ultimate display of power over yourself. It shows that you have chosen not to let someone else's negativity pull you down or make you behave in a way that is beneath you. When faced with disrespect, many people feel the urge to defend themselves. They want to correct the record to let the other person know that their behavior is unacceptable. But when you respond in anger, you often lose control of the situation. Your emotions take over. And instead of calmly addressing the issue, you may say things you regret, escalate the conflict, or even give the person who disrespected you exactly what they wanted, a reaction. Silence, on the other hand, keeps you in control. It allows you to maintain your composure, and it communicates that you are not easily rattled. Silence in the face of disrespect also reflects a deep sense of self-assurance. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone, least of all to someone who is trying to undermine you. You know who you are, and you know your worth. And because of that, you don't feel the need to engage in petty conflicts or defend yourself against baseless accusations or insults. Your silence is a testament to your confidence. It says, I don't need to lower myself to your level to prove my value. In a world where many people are quick to react and defend themselves, this kind of quiet confidence is a rare and powerful trait. Silence shows that you are prioritizing your peace over the temporary satisfaction of a confrontation. Responding to disrespect often leads to conflict, arguments, and emotional drain. Even if you win the argument, you lose energy in the process. But when you remain silent, you protect your peace. You don't allow someone else's negativity to disturb your mental and emotional state. In choosing silence, you are essentially saying, my peace is more important than engaging with your disrespect. And that is a powerful statement. Another reason silence reflects strength is because it shows that you are focused on the bigger picture. People who get caught up in every instance of disrespect or negativity often lose sight of what truly matters. They expend energy on battles that aren't worth fighting, and in doing so, they allow others to dictate their mood and behavior. But when you choose silence, you are signaling that you understand the value of picking your battles. Not every comment or action deserves your attention. By staying silent, you are showing that you know when to engage and when to let things go. In some situations, your silence may even lead to introspection on the part of the person who disrespected you. When they don't get the reaction they were expecting, it forces them to reflect on their behavior. Why didn't you react? Why didn't you take the bait? This kind of reflection can be uncomfortable for them, and it may cause them to reconsider their actions. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their behavior back at them without the distraction of a confrontation. And sometimes this can lead to personal growth on their part. They may come to realize that their disrespect was unnecessary or misguided, and they may even regret their actions. But even if they don't reflect on their behavior or change as a result of your silence, that's okay. The strength of silence lies in the fact that it's not about them, it's about you. It's about maintaining your dignity, protecting your peace, and staying true to yourself. You can't control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. And by choosing silence, you are exercising that control in the most powerful way possible. It's important to note that silence doesn't mean you're accepting or condoning the disrespect. On the contrary, your silence is a way of setting boundaries without engaging in unnecessary conflict. It says, I won't tolerate your behavior, but I also won't stoop to your level. It's a way of asserting yourself without getting drawn into negativity. And in many cases, this kind of non-engagement is far more effective than a heated response. It sends a clear message that you won't be easily manipulated or provoked, and that you're in control of your emotions and actions. Silence is a reflection of your inner strength, your confidence, and your commitment to maintaining your peace. It's a powerful tool that allows you to rise above disrespect without getting dragged into unnecessary conflict. And while others may misinterpret your silence as weakness, those who understand its true power will recognize it as a sign of wisdom and self-assurance. Silence is not a lack of response, it's a deliberate choice to protect your energy and prioritize your well-being. It's a way of saying, I know my worth, and I won't let anyone take that away from me. And that is a strength that no amount of disrespect can diminish. Particularly after someone has disrespected you, can be a form of psychological torment for them. When people act disrespectfully, they often expect an immediate reaction. They want to provoke, to elicit a response, whether it's anger, frustration, or defensiveness. Your silence denies them the satisfaction of knowing they have affected you, and over time, this becomes a source of discomfort for them. It leaves them with unanswered questions, uncertainties, and self-doubt. Silence can be more powerful than any verbal response because it forces the person who disrespected you to sit with their actions without the distraction of a conflict or argument to mask their discomfort. Disrespectful behavior is often rooted in a need for control. People disrespect others in an attempt to assert dominance, to gain a sense of superiority, or to feel powerful in the moment. They thrive on the emotional responses they provoke, whether it's anger, hurt, or frustration. When you remain silent, you strip them of that control. They are left in a state of uncertainty because they cannot gauge your feelings or your next move. Silence creates a void that can make them feel powerless. It robs them of the expected reward of your emotional response, leaving them with nothing but their own behavior to reflect on. This is where silence becomes truly effective. It doesn't give the person the closure they might expect after disrespecting someone. Instead, it leaves the situation open-ended, unresolved in their mind. They don't know if you're angry, hurt, or indifferent. They don't know if you're planning to retaliate or if you've completely moved on. This ambiguity can be unsettling. Human beings naturally seek closure, especially after conflict, because it helps them understand where they stand in relation to others. But your silence denies them the closure, forcing them to dwell on their actions longer than they would if you had responded. In many cases, people who disrespect others do so to gain attention. They want to be noticed, to feel significant, even if it's in a negative way. They rely on the back and forth that comes with disrespect, the exchange of barbs, the escalation of conflict. Your silence deprives them of that interaction. It makes their attempt to gain attention feel futile, and this can be incredibly frustrating for them. They may try to push further to escalate their disrespect in the hopes of finally getting a reaction. But with each failed attempt, they become more frustrated, more uncomfortable with the situation. This discomfort is not just about the lack of a response, it's also about the introspection that silence can trigger. When someone disrespects you and receives silence in return, they are forced to look inward. Without the distraction of a verbal confrontation, they are left alone with their thoughts and their actions. They may begin to question why they acted the way they did. Did they disrespect you because they were feeling insecure? Were they trying to assert power they don't actually possess? Were they projecting their own issues onto you? Your silence gives them no distractions to hide behind, and this can lead to uncomfortable self-reflection. The psychological discomfort caused by silence is amplified by the fact that disrespect often comes from a place of insecurity. Many people disrespect others to mask their own feelings of inadequacy. When they don't get the reaction they expect, it can exacerbate those insecurities. They may start to wonder if their words were ineffective or if their attempt to belittle you backfired. Instead of feeling powerful, they are left feeling weak, confused, and unsure of themselves. In this way, your silence turns the tables. It forces them to confront their own insecurities, rather than allowing them to use your reaction as a way to feel superior. In some cases, silence can also create a sense of guilt in the person who disrespected you. They may have acted impulsively or out of anger, expecting a fight that would justify their behavior. But when you don't engage, when you refuse to respond, it makes their actions stand out more starkly. Without a heated exchange to cloud the issue, they are left to face the reality of their behavior. This can lead to regret or guilt, as they realize that their disrespect was unwarranted or unprovoked. Your silence serves as a mirror, reflecting back their actions in a way that words often cannot. Over time, this psychological discomfort can begin to weigh on the person who disrespected you. The longer they go without a response, the more they may start to ruminate on their actions. They might replay the situation in their mind, trying to figure out why you didn't respond and what your silence means. This can lead to anxiety and self-doubt. They may start to question their own behavior and wonder if they misjudged you or the situation. In extreme cases, this kind of prolonged uncertainty can even cause them to overcompensate by trying to make amends or change their behavior in future interactions. It's important to note that silence doesn't always produce immediate results. The psychological effects of silence often take time to manifest. Initially, the person who disrespected you might not understand your silence. They might even mistake it for indifference or weakness. But as time goes on, and as they continue to receive no response, the weight of that silence begins to grow. It becomes a psychological burden they carry with them, one that forces them to confront their own behavior in ways they may not have anticipated. Your silence after being disrespected is a powerful tool because it shifts the focus from you to the person who wronged you. It forces them to grapple with their own actions and insecurities rather than allowing them to project their negativity onto you. Silence denies them the satisfaction of a reaction, leaving them in a state of uncertainty and discomfort. And in doing so, it often leads to a deeper, more meaningful form of accountability than any argument or confrontation ever could. Silence speaks louder than words. It is a testament to your strength, your self-control, and your refusal to let someone else dictate your emotions. It is a way of asserting your power without saying a single word. And for the person who disrespected you, that silence can be a source of deep psychological discomfort, one that lingers long after the moment has passed, leaving them to confront the impact of their actions on their own. In the face of disrespect, silence can be your most powerful response. It disrupts the disrespectful person's attempts to provoke and control, leaving them with nothing but their own actions to reflect on. While they seek to elicit a reaction, your silence denies them that satisfaction, forcing them to confront the emptiness of their behavior. It's a statement of strength, self-control, and confidence, demonstrating that your peace and dignity are more valuable than engaging in conflict. Ultimately, your silence speaks volumes, asserting your power without the need for words and leaving a lasting impact that challenges the very nature of disrespect.